All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Exodus chapter 17. This time, the Israelites are really going to put God to the test.
Oh, yeah, it's a pretty dramatic chapter.
So we're picking up with the Israelites in the wilderness, right? They've seen some incredible miracles already.
The plagues, the Red Sea, you name it.
Right. You'd think their faith would be rock solid at this point, but
But the minute things get a little tough,
a little thirsty.
they turn on Moses, and ultimately they're questioning God.
It's like, dude, you just parted a sea for us, and now you can't find us a little drinking water.
It's almost comical if it weren't so serious.
It's like they have collective amnesia about everything God's done for them.
And this isn't just about a lack of water, right? It's about trust.
Yeah, trusting that God will provide even when things seem impossible.
And that's where the real test comes in, isn't it?
So how does this whole water crisis unfold? Do they just stumble around the desert parched and complaining?
Well, the text tells us they actually confront Moses, and they're not exactly polite about it.
Oh, I bet.
They basically accuse him of leading them out to die in the desert.
Wow, talk about ungrateful.
Right. And the language they use is strong. They're grumbling, they're quarreling.
It's like they've completely forgotten the freedom they just experienced.
Exactly. They're so focused on their immediate discomfort that they lose sight of the bigger picture.
But God, being God, doesn't just smite them on the spot.
He's incredibly patient with them, even in their doubt and frustration.
So how does he respond to this whole water situation?
He instructs Moses to strike a rock with his staff, and guess what?
Water flows out. Enough for everyone.
Enough for the entire community and their livestock.
Wow, that's a serious amount of water.
It's a powerful image of God's abundance, his ability to provide even in the most barren circumstances.
You'd think that would be the end of the story. Everyone's happy, they have their water, problem solved.
But there's a twist, right?
There's always a twist.
The place where this miracle occurs is given a rather ironic name.
Let me guess, something like Dry Gulch or Thirsty Sands?
Not quite. It's called Massah and Meribah,
Which means?
temptation and strife.
Oh, so not exactly a celebration of God's provision.
It's more like a constant reminder of their lack of faith, their tendency to doubt God, even after he's proven himself time and time again.
It's like a spiritual memo. Remember when you guys freaked out and didn't trust me? Yeah, don't do that again.
Exactly. It's a reminder for them and for us that even when we experience God's provision, we need to keep choosing trust, keep choosing faith.
So it's not just about getting what we need, it's about the posture of our hearts, right?
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a deep, abiding trust in God, even when circumstances are challenging.
Which, let's be honest, is easier said than done.
Oh, for sure. But this story in Exodus, it gives us a glimpse into the human struggle with faith, and it reminds us that we're not alone in those struggles.
We all have our Massah and Meribah moments, right? Those times when we're tempted to doubt, to question, to give in to fear.
And it's in those moments that we need to remember the rock, the water, the provision, and the God who never fails to show up for us, even when we mess up.
It's powerful stuff. But hold on, the drama doesn't end with the water crisis, does it? There's more to this story.
Oh, yeah, things are about to get even more intense.
Oh man, I can't wait. But we're going to have to save that for part 2 of our deep dive into Exodus 17.
Definitely a cliffhanger. Looking forward to unpacking it all with you. Okay, so where we left off, the Israelites got their water, a pretty dramatic display of God's power, but
they still managed to mess things up, right?
well, it's not so much that they messed things up, but rather
That a name etched in history for all the wrong reasons.
it's more like a divine reminder, to keep their focus on trusting God.
Yeah, Massah and Meribah, not exactly names that inspire confidence.
Right, a lasting testament to their doubt and grumbling.
But like you were saying, things are about to escalate.
Yeah, the story takes a sudden turn, throws a whole new challenge their way.
Hit me with it. What happens next?
Picture this, just when you think things have settled down.
Everyone's hydrated, feeling good.
Boom, the Amalekites attack.
Whoa, hold on. Who are these Amalekites? Just some random desert raiders.
Not exactly random. They're actually descendants of Esau, Jacob's brother.
Oh, so there's some history there, some family drama playing out.
Yeah, you could say that. And it's not just a simple territorial dispute either.
It feels like something bigger is going on here.
It's like they represent this force that's opposed to God's people, a kind of spiritual opposition.
Yeah, it's not just a physical battle, it's a spiritual one too, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting how the leadership roles play out in this conflict.
Okay, fill me in. Who's taking charge?
Well, on the battlefield, you have Joshua.
The same Joshua who's going to lead the Israelites into the promised land later on.
That's the one. He's the military leader here.
Makes sense. But what about Moses? He's not exactly known for his swordsmanship.
No, Moses takes on a different kind of role.
A more strategic position, maybe.
More like a spiritual one. He goes up to the top of a hill overlooking the battle.
Okay, and I'm guessing he's not just there to enjoy the view.
Nope, he's got a crucial part to play. He's holding his staff aloft.
The same staff he used to part the Red Sea.
The very same. And here's where things get really interesting. The outcome of the battle is directly linked to Moses' posture.
What, like some kind of magical power pose?
Not magical, but definitely powerful. When Moses holds his staff up, Israel prevails.
But if he lowers his arms, they start losing.
Exactly. It's like his visual representation of the power of prayer, of intercession.
So Moses' raised arms are like a direct line to God.
You could say that. It's like he's channeling God's power, his strength, into the battle.
Wow, that's an intense image.
It is. And you can't help but wonder what it must have been like for the Israelites, seeing their leader up there, arms raised, literally holding the fate of the battle in his hands.
It must have been both inspiring and terrifying.
I can imagine. But there's another layer to this story, a reminder that even Moses, this great leader, is still human.
In what way?
He gets tired. Imagine holding your arms up for hours on end.
Yeah, my arms would be screaming after like 5 minutes.
Exactly. So as the battle wears on, Moses' arms start to get heavy. And guess what happens?
If the Israelites start losing ground.
You got it. It's like the physical weariness is mirroring a spiritual weariness.
So what do? Someone runs up the hill with a comfy chair and a glass of lemonade for Moses.
Not quite, but it's actually pretty heartwarming. Aaron and Hur, two of Moses' closest companions,
They step in and literally hold up his arms.
they become his support system, both physically and spiritually, enabling him to continue interceding for the Israelites.
It's such a beautiful image, isn't it? This idea that we need each other, especially in times of spiritual battle.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not meant to go it alone. We need that support, that encouragement to keep going when we're weary.
It makes me think about the people in my life who are my Aaron and Hur. You know, the ones who lift me up when I'm struggling.
It's essential, right, to have that kind of community around us.
And it's not just about receiving support, it's about being that support for others too, right?
Absolutely. We're all called to be Aaron and Hurs to each other, to be those who strengthen and encourage one another on this journey.
So in a way, this story isn't just about the Israelites battling the Amalekites. It's about the power of unity, of standing together in the face of adversity.
Well said. And there's one more element we haven't touched on yet, the aftermath of the battle, the act of remembering.
Okay, tell me more. How does that play out?
Well, after the victory, God instructs Moses to do something very specific.
To build a monument, write a song.
He tells him to record the event, to create a memorial of the battle.
To ensure they don't forget the victory.
As part of it. But it's also about remembering the struggle, the doubt, the attack itself.
It's like God is saying, don't just celebrate the win, learn from the entire experience.
Exactly. And it's not just for their benefit, it's for future generations as well.
A reminder to stay vigilant, to be prepared for the battles that lie ahead.
Right, because the victory over Amalek, it's not just a one-time event. It represents this ongoing struggle against the forces that oppose God's people.
So it's a story that continues to resonate today.
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
We all face our own Amalekites, those obstacles, those temptations that try to derail us from our God-given purpose.
And just like the Israelites, we need to remember the battles we've fought, the victories we've won, and the God who has been faithful through it all.
And we need to support one another, lift each other up, just like Aaron and Hur did for Moses.
Because let's be honest, this spiritual journey, it's not a solo mission.
It's a team effort, and we need each other to make it through.
Okay, so we've spent the last 2 parts talking about some pretty intense stuff, this whole idea of spiritual warfare. The Israelites battling the Amalekites, Moses up on the mountain with his arms raised.
Yeah, it's a powerful image, isn't it? That connection between physical posture and spiritual victory.
It really makes you think about the battles we face in our own lives, you know, the things we wrestle with, the temptations we try to resist.
Absolutely, and it begs the question, how do we actually fight these battles? What tools do we have at our disposal?
Right, because it's one thing to talk about spiritual warfare in theory, but it's another thing to actually live it out day by day.
Exactly. So let's shift gears a bit and get practical. What are some tangible ways we can equip ourselves for this spiritual battle?
I like that, getting practical. So where do we even start? What's a first line of defense, so to speak?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about with Moses on the mountaintop.
Prayer.
Exactly. Prayer is our lifeline, our direct connection to the source of all power and strength.
But I'll be honest, sometimes prayer can feel kind of, I don't know, formulaic, like I'm just going through the motions.
I hear you. It's easy to fall into those ruts, especially when life gets busy and our minds are racing.
So how do we break out of that? How do we make prayer more than just a to-do list item on our spiritual checklist?
I think it starts with shifting our perspective. Prayer isn't about reciting the right words or following a specific formula.
It's about connecting with God,
Yeah.
right? Having an actual conversation with him.
Exactly. It's about bringing our whole selves to Him, our joys, our sorrows, our fears, our hopes, all of it.
And being open to hearing his voice in return.
Yes. It's a two-way street, a dialogue, not a monologue.
So it's not just about setting aside a specific time for prayer, although that's important too. It's about making prayer a part of our everyday lives.
Absolutely. Those little whispers of gratitude throughout the day, those cries for help when we're feeling overwhelmed, those moments of quiet contemplation when we seek His guidance.
It's about recognizing that God is with us always, and we can access his presence through prayer anytime, anywhere.
You got it. And that brings us to another essential element in this spiritual battle: community.
Yes, the Aaron and Hur factor.
Exactly. We weren't created to go it alone. We need each other.
To hold each other up when our arms get tired, both literally and metaphorically.
I love that. We need those people in our lives who can offer support, encouragement, accountability.
Those safe spaces where we can be honest about our struggles and celebrate our victories together.
And remember, it's not just about finding the right people. It's about being the right kind of person, too.
Being an Aaron and Hur for someone else.
Right. Offering a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, a word of encouragement, a prayer of support.
Being that person who helps someone else keep their arms raised when they're feeling weary.
Beautiful. And that leads us to the next piece of the puzzle: remembrance.
Okay, remind me, what did we say about that again?
It's about actively engaging with those memories of God's faithfulness in our lives, both big and small.
Because it's easy to forget those moments, especially when we're in the midst of a new battle.
So true. That's why it's so crucial to find ways to keep those memories alive, to make them tangible.
Like journaling, creating visual reminders, sharing our stories with others.
All of that. It's about weaving those threads of grace and redemption into the tapestry of our lives.
I love that image because it's not just about recalling individual events, it's about seeing the bigger picture, the ongoing narrative of God's faithfulness in our lives.
Yes, and that narrative becomes a source of strength and encouragement, especially when we face new challenges.
It reminds us that God has been there for us before, and he'll be there for us again.
And that brings us to the final element: vigilance.
Ah, yes. Staying alert, keeping our guard up.
Which doesn't mean living in fear or constantly looking over our shoulder.
It's about being mindful, intentional, discerning.
Exactly. Being aware of the influences that are shaping our thoughts, beliefs, and actions.
Recognizing the enemy's tactics, the lies he whispers, the temptations he dangles.
And choosing to resist them.
Because we have a choice, right? We can choose to give in or we can choose to stand firm in the truth.
And that choice is empowered by our connection to God.
Through prayer, through community, through remembering his faithfulness.
And through that vigilance, that awareness of the spiritual battle that's raging around us.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Exodus 17, it's clear that this ancient story has a lot to teach us about the battles we face today.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in this fight, and we've been given everything we need to emerge victorious.
And that victory isn't just about conquering external enemies, it's about the transformation that takes place within us as we draw closer to God.
It's about becoming more like Christ, reflecting his love, grace, and faithfulness in a world that desperately needs his presence.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, folks. We hope it's been encouraging and challenging and that you'll walk away with a renewed sense of hope and purpose, knowing that even in the midst of spiritual battles, God is with us and he has already won the victory.